Episode 1, guys. Thank you for tuning in to my podcast. I have on Dr. Regina Chopp, who's a psychologist. They were my professor at Pepperdine. We go over everything from the psychology of a douchebag to my worst psychedelic experience where I took too many shrooms and I didn't take them for more than 10 years after that experience because of what happened to me. And the law was involved, and I almost ruined my life. We also talk about punching down in comedy, and is it okay? Is it not okay? When's it okay? These are like gray areas that we go over.
We need a little bit more about the overall theme of the podcast.
So ultimately, the core theme of this podcast is I used to be a huge douchebag, and starting with the Marines, I really started to make a change in my life and who I was as a person. And even in the Marines, I was a huge douchebag, so I had a long ways to go, but that was probably the starting point. And then after the Marines, I started reading a lot of self-improvement books and became extremely self-aware through like meditation and reading these books and getting feedback from other people. I'm excited for this episode, and I hope you guys enjoy it. Dr. Regina Chopp, they were my professor at Pepperdine. My favorite teacher in college, by far. What's cool is Pepperdine's like a religious school.
The undergraduate institution, for sure. I think the graduate programs are a little bit separate, but yes, overall, Pepperdine Christian vibe.
Yeah, and I didn't know that they were separate. I'm glad we didn't have mass and stuff like some of the undergrad people do. But I walk in and thinking, oh, and then you're there, lesbian, full sleeves, just like, yo, what's up? This is just call me Gina. And I was like, Dr. Chopp, you're like, Gina.
I hope I don't sound like that.
No. That was my impression of like a cool professor. But
I thought it was your lesbian impression.
I need to work on my impressions for sure, because that was like surfer professor rode a surfboard into class. I don't know where that came from, but I would like to go over just the psychology of being a douche, or what do we think, like, how do you define that? If there was somebody either from another planet or what are the layman's terms? Like, what is a douchebag? Because that's something I'd like to accurately define.
Well, it depends, I think, again, on a person's motivation. I think their intention in why they behave the way they behave and why they say or why they believe the things they believe. I would like to think that most of us are inherently good people and that we're born very innocent and inherently good, and that it's through teaching and modeling from adults that we start to become more rigid and inflexible, like psychologically inflexible. In other words, like we hear new ideas, but we'd rather just hold on to the things that we already believe.
Right.
We're trying to understand the definition of a douchebag and like what does that actually mean if someone's a douchebag. But I really think that more than just the name itself, we have to understand a person's intentions, and we have to understand the impact that they're having. So are you saying something that is douchey because you are unaware of its implications, right? Or are you saying something because you know it's provocative and you're trying to punch down, basically, or put, make people feel a certain way? And something that my wife shared with me, where do we get all of our ideas, our belief systems, our values, cultural, historical, blah, blah, blah. It's kind of like being in a big body of water. Mm. And when you're in a big body of water, all you know is this body of water. But at some point, you have to you have to be able to develop to the point where you notice you're in the body of water, and you also can admit that you are physically wet, right? What becomes problematic, or what I think a douchebag is when a person is clearly standing in a body of water that is full of their ideas and prejudices and, faulty cognitive thinking, or their, the cognitive distortions and stuff. And they say, what are you talking about? I'm not wet. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, if you can zoom out and say, of course I believe these things. Look at the body of water that I was born into. We were all born into specific bodies of water. And I can't I have a hard time believing that there's a single child out there with a family that gives it like a perfect blue, clean, clear body of water. Like
Yeah.
most of us are in like these murky little ponds with all these problems. And if you're able to be like, man, I'm in this murky little pond and I'm wet and I need like drying off is healthy, then you can move from being a douche to like a person who's evolved. But the douches are the people who are like just sitting in a shitty little pond of water and they're like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
You know, it's like your inability to see your own
It's
stuff.
lack of self-awareness.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I had a
It's
lot of that growing up.
and where do you feel like that came from?
I feel like it was often just trying to be cool, saying the first thing that came to my mind, and just, I don't know. I think I was dealing with a lot of trauma, like, not trauma, but just like dealing with a lot of like home issues. And then I would act out and just insecurities and a lot. Yeah.
And how long do you think it took you for you to recognize that some of the way that you responded to these things maybe weren't healthy or helpful?
A really long time, unfortunately, sadly. Probably like each step helped, like going to the Marines helped because it separated me from I was also hanging out with not the best people too. So that got me in a new environment. After I read like How to Win Friends and Influence People, that helped me a lot because like I did like the opposite of a lot of things it said. And it was just like bad habits of doing this opposite thing of like criticizing and interrupting and just a lot of not friendly stuff. And I was like, well, why am I losing friends or whatever? Why am I not having the success I want in these areas? I wanted to be cool so bad growing up, and like I thought I was emulating cool with this douchiness, and it really wasn't. I was just a douchebag. And man, yeah, I'm happy with where I'm at now, but I've left a wake of shit behind me.
I think that's
Yeah.
like the human experience, though, right? Is that we all just so badly want to fit in.
Yeah.
It's so painful to be rejected. We are a social species, and any kind of isolation or social rejection is so painful. There have been studies that have shown that people would rather be physically punished than socially isolated. Like if
Yeah.
I said, Bryson, do you want me to punch you in the face or do you want to spend a week in solitary confinement? You'd be like, punch me in the face.
Yeah. Especially if you've experienced both, probably. Yeah. Well,
You're like, well, especially if it's you punching me.
no, also, yeah. Yeah. Well, some people have never been punched in the face too, so they will probably take the confinement, because on the outside it looks like, well, I can spend a week alone, but yeah.
My thoughts aren't scary. And then like 30 minutes, you're like, that got dark real fast.
Yeah, let me out. Where's the punch? Yeah. No, and that makes a lot of sense too, because like I felt like I don't know, I was not being accepted at home and not being accepted at school, so I was just like, I had gotten arrested multiple times in high school and like over 20 tickets of miscellaneous things, multiple public intoxes, arrested for selling drugs at school, like
Wow.
really bad. Yeah, I was so lucky that I got into the Marines. And yeah, even looking back at that, it's like, well, what are we doing and all this stuff? So like even that's not so
Yeah.
crazy. What like these things that I've benefited so much from also have a dark side.
Sure. Sure.
Yeah, definitely had a lot of toxic masculinity coming out of infantry and the Marines.
So what would you like, people go on their own journeys, but what would you say was your motivation for, reading these books and doing this research and really make a concerted effort not to be, as you refer to yourself as the douchebag that you were? Like, what's your motivation for not being like that?
Yeah, I never thought of that. But now that we are talking about it, I think at the core is probably acceptance and the more I learn, the more I realize that the most important things in life are the memories you create with the people you love. And like, if you don't have any people that love you to create memories with, then I don't know, that sucks. It's not a fun existence. And I had that, unfortunately. Like, granted, the home life, my parents responded in a way that I didn't respond well to, but like, also I was a little shithead kid. So they were just doing the best with the tools that they had passed down to them. And I just did not respond well. And yeah, and then the school stuff, it was just like,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, but I think at its core, acceptance and like love, wanting to be loved, and yeah.
So realizing that you can be cool and maybe not have fulfilling relationships.
Yeah, I think
But,
you can either be
right?
cool or you can be loved, and it's like pick one. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, you can. Yeah, there's a way. I guess my goal isn't to be cool anymore. Maybe I know I still like being cool. I guess
Well,
we
sure.
want to be cool. Yeah, yeah, but like I really wanted to be cool when I was younger. It's like,
Yeah.
and now I'm just like I hid so much of like who I was out of like shame and not being accepted, and like some of it was inappropriate that I lost like essence of myself that I feel like now I'm trying to like reclaim and like truly be myself, but within reason. Like not all of that needs to come, but like there's essence that now when people first meet me, they don't see like my fun side, because I'm just like so reserved and polite, because it's just like that side of me was too much for people, and it was too much. It was like, so I'm trying to find that balance of, yeah, being myself, but within my values now.
Gotcha.
A lot of books and therapy to get there, though. Yeah.
Do you think you could have gotten to this place without therapy?
No. No. I
Why?
don't, because I got as far as I could get, and then I seeked therapy. Yeah.
So there was something about the therapeutic relationship where there was a mirror held up that you just couldn't see without someone else holding it up to you. Like, you can do all the reading you want, but if someone's not like, but what about this?
Yeah. No, the therapy for me, I'm pretty good at self-awareness and like knowing what I need to address. The therapy for me was like the traumas and the insecurities, and like making sense of that, and like having like a professional walk me through that, the deep stuff from childhood. And like one was like psychotherapy for some more recent stuff, and then after that was more like ACT, which I know you're a big proponent of. And
So
yeah, it's a lot of,
acceptance and commitment therapy
yeah,
for listeners who aren't aware of that.
that's true. Good plug. And also like a lot of inner child work with that was a breakthrough for me, and knowing that I've cultivated these relationships even with like family and stuff, but like there's a part of that they're not able to meet in some regards, and then I don't need that from them. That I
Yeah.
get that from myself, and like, man,
It's so liberating,
oh
right?
yeah, and you're like cry sessions with a therapist, and it's just like, yeah, it's cool, powerful, and
It can be terrifying to realize that our parents are just people,
yeah,
right? It sounds so simple. Your parents are just people.
right,
But when you realize it and you're like, oh my gosh, they have problems, they have insecurities, they have anxieties of their own, it is so terrifying. And when you realize that, I think sometimes it's important to sit with the idea that you spent so much of your development assuming that anything that goes wrong, right, that there's going to be a solution that's generated by them, whether it's a good one, whether it sucks, whether it hurts, whether it solves the problem, right? Like, because parents are people. And then to do your own work and recognize that there are certain things that I love my parents. I adore them. Have they always done what I wish they would have done? Of course
right,
not.
yeah,
I know you love your parents,
Oh yeah, I literally FaceTime them every day.
but you've shared that things were not always easy. And sometimes things are not always easy because we're also reacting to the way we're being parented. Like, it's such a complicated relationship. And there's something that is quite freeing about recognizing them for who they are, respecting them as individuals and as their own people with their own shit.
Yeah.
And saying, I don't have to rely on them for all the things I thought I needed them for.
Yeah.
It's so liberating. And it's also way more fair to our
Yeah.
parents. And I think it makes the relationship that much easier.
So much better. Like, my relationship with my parents now is just like, they're happy to see, you know what I mean? It's just like such a different dynamic than it was, or even was like 5 or 6 years ago. It's just like grown so much stronger. And yeah, I know what I can count on them for, and I know what I need to like step up and take care of myself. And it's, I can't hold it against them. I'm still very fortunate to even have parents at all, you know?
Yep. Yeah.
And now you're doing drug therapy, or like psycho. How do you say that? I don't want to butcher it.
Sure. I'm actually an instructor of psychology at Santa Monica College. Also, I just completed my certification in psychedelic assisted therapy, or it's easier to just refer to it as PAT. PAT. Psychedelic assisted therapy, just quickly, it encompasses the idea of being able to provide therapy for ketamine, psilocybin, and MDMA.
Wow.
However, currently, only ketamine is legal in the United States. You can use psilocybin and MDMA if you're within, like, you can provide it to clients only in the context of a clinical trial. So while I've studied and am prepared to like move forward as soon as it becomes legal, right now I can only work with ketamine.
Interesting.
But I have the training to work with all three substances.
Why can't your therapies all just be research for that? Or do they monitor it pretty strictly?
It's very strictly monitored. Right now, MDMA and psilocybin are going through basically being regulated by the FDA. They need FDA approval in order to be released on the market. It's my understanding that we probably are not going to get to the place with MDMA or psilocybin, or probably even ketamine ever.
Really?
The same way that where we are with cannabis. So then, even though cannabis is considered by technically to be a psychedelic, it's now both medicinal and recreational. I don't think we're ever going to, certainly not in the near future, are people going to be able to walk into like a MedMen and pick out mushrooms or like, safe and clean MDMA.
Yeah. Which there's a lot of bad stuff out there. I remember the Silk Road. It was I used to buy drugs when I did drugs. I used to buy drugs off of the Silk Road, which is like this black market online website pretty much, but you had to use a VPN to like mask your thing, and you would buy it with Bitcoins.
I'm glad I didn't know about it.
And you get the best stuff, but I would buy like hundreds of Bitcoins at a time when they were like $6 and $9 each.
Wow.
And I was buying drugs thinking, and then, so dumb. If I would have just held on to the Bitcoins, it'd be such a better place. And I was like hooking my friends up because I was like 10 cents for a 1 point of MDMA at the time. And I was selling them for $10. So I was like, which is a massive profit.
Absolutely.
But nothing like if I would have just held on to a few Bitcoins. Yeah.
Only in hindsight can we look back and say, what was helpful for you.
That's true.
I do think psychedelics, even recreationally or just for self-exploration, I think they do have a huge place in certain people's lives.
Absolutely.
I would never say anyone should go out and take psychedelics. I honestly believe that being honest with your medical providers is, I just feel professionally it's important that a disclaimer, that I provide a disclaimer. I think it's important for there to be a medical evaluation, because there are certain people, given their medical histories, their current medications, or their psychological histories, where psychedelics can do far more harm than good.
Right.
And
Like,
so,
oh, go ahead. Sorry.
no,
I cut you off.
well, I just think it's important that people understand that, like, also when we talk about psychedelic assisted therapy, we're not talking about taking MDMA and going to a rave and dancing all night.
Right.
These are very controlled settings where therapists are present. You wear an eye mask, you listen to music, not your music, or you're like, oh, I want to listen to Jamiroquai.
Yeah. What's Jamiroquai?
It's a Brooklyn Nine-Nine joke.
Okay.
But like, you just pick out whatever you want to listen to. It's generally music without any kinds of words. And the whole idea is to turn inward. And that is you're kind of using your inner healing intelligence, like to help you get to where you want to be. So it's so much different, I think, than what, especially people who don't believe this should be legalized. I think they're thinking people are just going to walk into stores and all of a sudden we're all going to have, I've heard people say, oh, great, well, now we're just going to legalize heroin next. And, that's just, it's not the case.
No, and places that regulate it actually have, there's tons of evidence, have lower incidences. They have better recovery programs. It's cleaner, so they're not passing off diseases. And in turn, they have less drug users. I forget which country is it the Netherlands or one of them. I don't think it's legal to sell it, but it's not criminalized. So, and then they have like places where you can safely inject because they see it as like they're going to do it anyway. And those places have like something about it. I read
They're
it so
harm
long
reduction
ago.
models.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they actually are more beneficial than making it illegal and all the other stuff. And I actually experimented a lot with psychedelics after the Marines, and it helped me a lot. I did ayahuasca twice. And I've done, the first time I did shrooms, I was actually in the Marines.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
What was that like?
It was fun. The first time I did, it doesn't, when it's not fun, it's when you took too much. And I see it as, and I don't know if this is true, it could just be my mind, but I see it as like you get a glimpse behind the curtains of reality. And I don't like what I see back there. I don't, I hope that's not, I mean, even if it is, I'm fine with it, but I don't know.
So you bring up a good point, which is that this is also, when you're talking about like having challenging experiences, this is something the reason why we have psychedelic assisted therapists. So it's not just me with all of my years of clinical experience sitting with someone and saying, here's the medicine, enjoy the ride.
Right.
I take weeks to prepare them, to help them understand like what to expect, how many people experience some of the most challenging things that they've ever experienced in their lives. It is not as though you take these high doses of medicines and it's like rainbows and sunshine. Sometimes a lot of really scary stuff comes up for people.
Yeah.
But it's about being in a place where you are supported. There are two sober therapists, both with psilocybin and MDMA, because they're such long sessions. It'd be dangerous to leave just one therapist with a person, because what if they've got to take a break or they got to get up and use the restroom? You can't leave someone alone. And what's beautiful about this is people know ahead of time not to try to avoid what is challenging or scary. Instead, they're encouraged to just go with it and see what it has to teach you. And so for people, for example, some people use psychedelics as a way to manage their existential dread because they know they have a terminal diagnosis. And so, as you can imagine, you already know you're dying, and now you're taking a medicine, and sometimes you see your death, and that
Yeah.
can be terrifying. And yet, when these people have these experiences and they're held and supported by therapists who believe in the medicine, who believe in inner healing intelligence, they end up coming out of the experience with far less anxiety and distress so that they can enjoy the time they have left. Because
Yeah.
they said, hey, if that is what I have to face and that is what's scary, sometimes people describe themselves going in and screaming at their cancer and really finding some agency in what's happening to them. And most people, regardless of how challenging their experience is, because it, again, sometimes it's a beautiful experience and sometimes there's, these are 6 to 8 hour sessions. Sometimes you'll have a whole hour where it can be fairly terrifying.
Yeah.
And with support, people will rate this among the top 5 most important events in their lives. And this is including people with children and who've had marriages, and they're saying, yes, including all, having children and seeing them graduate and going to weddings and da 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 da. This is still ranks among my top 5 most important experiences of my life.
Wow. That's incredible. What's you mentioned internal, you believe in internal healing. It sounded like a thing you said. It sounded like healing from yourself within naturally, but I didn't know if this was like a theory or something.
Yeah, within the psychedelic assisted therapy community, there's this idea that sure, we can benefit from being helped by providers, by therapists, by social workers, psychiatrists, etc. But the medicine helps us to tap into our inner healing intelligence, which is something that we believe that all people have. So there's something innate in all of us that helps us to survive. I mean, evolutionarily, it makes sense, right? Why are we here?
Reward centers of the brain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we evolved so that, like, if we had an ancestor who was like, "Ooh, a bear, let me go pet it," and you get eaten, you don't pass on your genes. So
Right.
this
Hot stove. Yeah.
this inner healing intelligence makes a lot of sense and I think it's a great idea because it really puts agency back into the hands of the people who so desperately need it when they're struggling with trauma and depression and dread over dying and all kinds of things that feel like you don't have any say.
Yeah, I have so much existential dread and I'm not even dying. Like I think about that stuff literally every day. It's one of the, and I don't even like thinking about it, but it still comes up. I'm like, I don't want to think about it.
No,
Yeah.
it's terrifying, and I think that more people would talk about it if it wasn't so terrifying to bring up.
Yeah, your brain, like I've read a lot of stuff on it, researched it extensively. Your brain like stops you from thinking about it because it's like it affects your life. I mean, it's the scariest thing we'll ever have to go through. I think it's the most unknown. The only people that know what's on the other side, we can't talk to them anymore. And we all have to go through it. There's no getting out of it. It just, it's heavy.
Some people would say that it's not our brain so much, it's our ego. And our ego is, because if you've talked about having psychedelic experiences.
Yeah.
I've had psychedelic experiences, and in my first psychedelic experience where I experienced ego dissolution in other words,
Ego death, same.
yeah, ego
Yeah.
dissolution, ego death is the same thing. It's the idea that what you know as yourself, which we think is like sits in our brain, it goes away, and all you experience is what it is like.
We're all the same.
Existence or consciousness or connectedness, but there's no you there.
Yeah, I didn't
It's
like that.
very difficult to put into words.
Was it scary for you? Sorry, I feel
Oh
like
no,
I
it
interrupted a
was
little bit.
so scary for me. It was so scary for me. I was like, I don't want this, I don't want this. But you know what? It was my ego saying, I don't want this, I don't want this, I don't want this. Because why would something that exists that runs your life be okay with disappearing?
I know, and it's it's everything we know too. That's the scariest part. And I've been guilty of having an oversized ego at many times in my life. So I'm really attached to that person that I've developed, So it was so scary. And I wish I had a more guided, because like I just knew I needed these experiences, and some of them really blew up in my face. I'll tell you about one. I didn't do shrooms for like over 10 years. And I only did it recently this year at my cousin's bachelor party. They had like a chocolate bar that they bought at a gas station somewhere for like $60. And it was like Belgian chocolate, some of the best tasting chocolate. And the first night I took 4 squares. And I was like, oh, because it was 3.5 grams or 4 grams a bar. I was like, I used to take whole eights. I'll be fine off 4 squares, which was, it was 0.25 per square. So that was like a gram. I was like, I tripped so hard. I was like, and the other guy took as much as me and didn't. So I was wondering if like, if it's like other thing, maybe I have more receptors in my brain since I had done it in the past.
Yeah.
But the time that scared me so much, and I'd done it many times before, I did it at Coachella. Bad move. It was 3 years after I got out of the Marines. I'd also taken an allergy pill that day, had drunk some beers, smoked some weed, and I took some of the Molly too. And it was like, oh, it's supposed to be a hippie flip.
Right.
I hippie flipped the fuck out. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, you have no idea. Like,
I'm not laughing because it's funny. I'm laughing because I've heard this so many times.
It is fun. Yeah. Looking back, it's hilarious. But I could have ruined my life. And I almost did because, like, I had a bad trip, left. I went to my truck, started, like, honking at, like, the security came. I ended up, like, yelling out, like, rip. And I don't even, like, remember a lot of it. I had to read some of it in the police report. And, like, the cops came. They tried to rip me out of my car. I kicked them in the face. And then
you're terrified.
And I was out of my mind. And they were the strongest shrooms I'd ever had. And I only had a half eighth. And other times I've had whole eighths. I had ego death. I didn't even really experience ego death. I think it was the combination. Honestly, I swear it was the allergy pill that pushed me over the edge. I'm just kidding. But I kicked it, and then he came back a second time, and I kicked him again, and I hopped out. I'm in American pajama pants, no shirt. They shot me with a taser.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Dropped me in my, and I was just getting electrocuted. And I remember having the thought, when I was on the ground, I was like, this is the lowest point in my life.
Yeah.
And it really was. And then it felt like 5 of them just like jumped off the high ropes on top of me. And I honestly, after studying psychology and looking at the data and everything that's gone on in the world, I'm so lucky they shot me with a taser. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it could have gone the other way. It could have been the other gun. Yeah, I know.
That's white privilege.
My friend said that. My black friend. I was like, well, it didn't really feel like white privilege, but I know it is. And
no, it is.
I'm actually reading White Fragility thanks to him, and realized that I still have some of that stuff. It's just masked behind these other things like safe neighborhoods or getting a gun when you're in a different neighborhood versus, and it's just like, it was scary to learn that it's still prevalent even with somebody who's worked so hard. And I don't know, see myself as like very woke, but yeah, it was white privilege. They jumped on me, and then they're like they're handcuffing me, and I'm like grabbing his finger nicely, and I'm way more sober at this point because I just got shocked like I've never been shocked. It shot me, the prongs on my heart.
Oh my gosh.
And then I'm like trying to grab my face. Stop trying to grab my finger. I go, we're just trying to have fun here, man. He's like, you should have thought of that before you kicked my partner in the face. And he rips me up, and I look at him, and the prongs are dangling. And he goes, stop fucking looking at me. I was like, somebody must have been really mean to you as a kid, man. And he's pissed. And I'm just like, and they take me away, and I had a lot of drugs in my truck. And they found some of them. They tow my truck. I go to jail. They tried hitting me with 4 felonies, like serious business, assault to a peace officer with a deadly weapon causing great bodily injury. I guess my shoes are deadly
weapons. Yeah, I was like, what's the deadly weapon?
Yeah, they inflated the crap out of my stuff, and I get to jail, and I'm just like, they cut my wristband. This is day 1 of Coachella. Day 1, Regina. I'm in jail. Oh, during the shroom trip, I peed all over myself. I forgot to mention that.
Wait, did you know you peed your pants?
Oh, I did not pee my pants. I whipped my dong out and was like peeing on myself, like out of my mind. Out of my mind. And Yeah, I took a long break from drugs, from shrooms anyway, or any psychedelics. It had been over 10 years since I had done them. Yeah, I'll have to add that
It's
part
only
back.
funny
I'll
because you're
add that part
safe.
in.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I am,
Yeah.
and yeah, and I'm fully recovered, and I'm back to doing shrooms. No, I
Not
took a
tripping
break.
right
Yeah,
now.
but I'm back. Did you miss me, Uncle Sil? So I'm in my American piss pants. Yeah, and I'm just sitting there, and I had to make a phone call, and the only numbers I know by heart are my parents.
Yep.
And I had the money to bail out, but I had no access, so I had to call. And it's like an inmate from so and so, San Bernardino, and my dad's like, "What are you doing in there, man?" And my parents are so cool. We've butted heads in the past, but like among like accepting, and like they always told me safe sex, and like they let me drink at home in a controlled environment, and were very cool in aspects where some parents weren't, and very hard on me in others. But I'm very happy with
Where you are now.
where
Yeah.
I am now. Yeah, and without those experiences. But my dad's just like, "What are you doing in there, man?" I was like, "I fucked up, Dad. I need you to bail me out. I'll pay you back."
And I need some pants.
Yeah, no, it gets better. I had to put those piss pants back on. They confiscated my shoes, Regina. So I get out, no shoes, American piss pants, socks, and I was like, "Hey, can you guys give me?" Because like I didn't know. I mean, can you give me? They're like, "No, obviously we're not giving you a ride. You just kicked my friend in the fucking face, douche." Yeah, huge douche move. This is one of my douche. So I start walking, and I'm like, "This sucks. I have no shoes." I start hitchhiking. Some weird like I don't want to. She had done many hard drugs, like meth, and I'm very grateful for the ride. But I was
Sure.
like, okay, like I don't want to end up this lady's like in her basement sex toy. Just like as she gives me gummers the rest of my life, because that's the vibe I was picking out. And she's just like, and I like, who's picking up shoeless people with American pants?
That woman was.
That woman was. She gives me a ride, drops me off. I find a phone, somehow get my friend's number or Facebook, message him. And then I go to get my truck. And I think maybe my phone was in my truck or something. Or a charger. There was something where I couldn't. And then I get my truck.
Hard to remember when you were on drugs.
Yeah. And just after I spent the night in jail, my
And
first
got
time.
tasered.
Got tasered. The most electricity I've ever felt to this day. I've never had electricity just drop me on the ground, and I feel like that popping sound it makes, you feel all of, and it's just like it's a very weird sensation, and it felt like it was going on so long that I was like, oh, I'm just still being electrocuted. Like I had thoughts. It was like they say it's 30 seconds or whatever. It felt like 4 hours.
Yeah.
It felt like a long time. So I get to my truck and I go, okay, I had to put the floor mat on my seat because I had like pissed everywhere in my truck like I was wacko. And I'm like, okay, I can drive home. And I was at UCLA at the time, and I can be really depressed, or I can find a way back into Coachella. Because in the back seat, I had a stash can, a Sprite can that unscrews. And I had like way more drugs in there. So I chose the latter, of course. And my friends had obviously like heard through the grapevine or whatever what had happened. Mm-hmm. And I go and I trade 4 Mollies and $100 for another wristband from a guy selling it outside of a grocery store. Put it on, go buy some cheap shoes, and I put the stuff next to my, and I walk in and find my friends, and they're like, what the fuck? They're like, we thought you were going to prison forever. What the fuck? I'm like, I'm back, motherfucker. Whip out the drive, and we just like rage the rest of the weekend. Yeah, it was crazy though. The pictures after, you can just see like scabs where the taser had shot me because I'm like obviously shirtless, rolling. at Red Hot Chili Peppers. And yeah, and I got hit. They hit me with 4 felonies. I had to go through thankfully I'm a veteran. I went through like a special veterans court. I had to plead guilty to 1 misdemeanor, got it all dropped. But I had to do a year of formal probation, driving to Riverside every week to get drug tested and all this shit. But I was like the poster child for this program because here I was in UCLA. I was just got done with UCLA. I was going to Pepper because it took them a minute to bring the charges. I was like, oh, I'm good. Nothing happened. But it happened, and they brought him. And it really could have ruined my life, and it definitely affected it. And yeah, like I said, I did shrooms for 10 years. And yeah, but we're back.
So what you learned from that experience?
Don't do that stuff at a festival. Also, like, don't mix stuff. I mean, for me, and I had a lot of like trauma stuff that I hadn't gone through yet and dealt with, and like, so there was so many factors that could have played.
Generally at the, I think there are some organizations like the Zendo Project. I don't know if that, I've
never heard of that.
I've at the point where I was ready to afford Coachella. I was like, I'm too old. But the Zendo Project is like a group of people who are trained to work with people who are having challenging experiences on substances. So there's like a special tent that you can go to. Sometimes they actually are available. I don't know.
Oh, at Coachella?
They go to festivals. So I wasn't like...
This was in 2013, so I don't know if they had that.
Well, there's a lot of... I mean, there are organizations now where the whole point is to have people there at the festival in order... Instead of having people have the experience you had where you're now being confronted by the police, they bring you to a tent with like people like me who are trained professionals who know how to be like, I'm validating that you're seeing the devil right now. And maybe instead of like, your friends being like, oh, you're just imagining it, whatever. Like they're...
He left me in my truck and was in the tent, tripping out in the tent behind my truck. And just heard me get zapped. Never left the tent. I think he was having a bad trip too. But I was just like,
yeah.
Can you imagine he's tripping in the tent, like just fuck you guys. That's not even all of it. Like I went crazy and deserved everything I got for sure. But yeah, he just heard his friend get zapped with a taser. I wouldn't leave the tent either, probably. He's like, well, there goes Bryson. And then I can just imagine he's still tripping in the tent, hearing my truck get towed away, which is like from here to my table. And he's just like, well, there he goes. Hopefully he's still alive. I don't know what he was thinking. He felt bad for it, but I mean, there's nothing he could have done, I don't think. But
so the message is, don't mix these substances. Don't do them in festival settings, especially if you know you're going to a festival where there won't be an organization that might be there to help you out in case you're having a challenging experience.
Sure. And there might have been one. I just was unaware.
And if you're like, hey, I'm going to do this anyway, then it's helpful to know before you go someplace, like, what is the plan if one of us is going to have a challenging experience? Is one person going to stay? If it's a multiple day festival, will one person stay sober so that they can like have a clear head and deal with things? Or can you look ahead and see whether there's going to be an organization like the Zendo Project that will be there so that you can go to a safe space instead of being taken care of by the police.
Right. Yeah. They're a little harsher with their therapies.
Well, because everything is like you broke the law versus, hey, you did this, and we understand that it can be really challenging because things come up when there's things you haven't dealt with, it's going to come up.
Yeah, I think that was a lot of it, but I mean, it scared me out of doing, and I barely did them probably like a month or two ago, and now my girlfriend wants to do them, and we're gonna do that, but yeah, probably just go camping or something chill. I feel good, but like deep down, I'm like, oh, what if I freak out again? So I don't want that, but like I feel like I'm at a way different place too. That was over 10 years ago.
Yeah.
done multiple therapies and read many more books, and I don't know, I feel more in touch with myself and reality and or whatever this is.
Yeah, as long as you keep in mind your mindset plays a big role in it. We know that the mindset you have going into it, if there's things that you're worried about, or taking some time to like meditate and thinking about what your intentions are and how, what you want your experience to be like, how you imagine you'll, understanding there may be challenging parts and maybe there's actually something to learn from those challenging parts. And then setting. So really setting your mindset and then the setting that you're in.
Yeah.
When you're putting yourself in like a crowded warehouse where it's hard to like get out and have space, but if you're choosing like a nature setting with a person you really trust.
Yeah.
Again, people are going to do what they're going to do. And as long as the more you know about how to create a safe environment, I think that the better the experience is going to be.
Yeah, I think that's good. And my mindset is just like show her the fun side, because like they're so fun, and like the way the world looks on them is almost like a fun video game. And it's just like they're cool. I like them. Out of all the drugs I've done, which I've done almost all of them, it's one of my favorites. Ecstasy is probably the best feeling though, and I'm surprised you even would need a guide for that, because it's such like a amazing, like orgasmic, euphoric experience when you get the pure good stuff. It's
So imagine the government created MDMA that is being used in the trial. That is like the cleanest, purest form of ecstasy. I was like, we need to get that back. People were using that a long time ago in research settings, and it was, as you can imagine, it was especially helpful in couples therapy.
Sure.
And then, the whole war on drugs and Nixon and, what anti-Vietnam sentiments and things. And people were like, you know what, everyone is rebelling, and there's the women's rights movement and the, all the different movements that were happening, like gay rights and, desegregation, all the things. People were just like, you know what? People are rebelling and we need to shut this down because we think drugs are part of the problem. And there was this whole campaign to like demonize these medicines there were hundreds of studies done showing that they were effective for so many things. And interestingly, effective actually for addiction, for treating addiction.
Wow.
A lot of people don't know this, but the founder of AA, one of the founders of AA, Bill W., as he's known as, he was sober for 20 years and had an LSD trip that he felt was absolutely essential to his healing and his recovery. And he wanted that to be a part of the AA 12-step process. Now, 12-step people hate when this gets brought up because they're like, drugs are bad. If you have a problem with alcohol, you should never smoke, cannabis or any of this stuff. Really, the research shows that just because you're addicted to one thing doesn't mean you're addicted to another.
Right. And you can really become addicted to anything, right?
Yeah. And I mean, you can have behavioral addictions, substance addictions, but the whole point is Bill W. has like a part of the 12-step program is this idea that you want to be in touch with a higher power and have this spiritual experience. Well, he had the spiritual experience with LSD.
Oh, wow.
And that gets erased from history, like so many things that get erased from history, because it doesn't fit the narrative of what we want people
and
to think.
One of the components of AA like a higher power?
Yeah, it's absolutely essential that you have faith in a higher power to get through the steps.
I wonder if it's the same higher power you experience when you're on psychedelics, because you definitely get like, which sometimes I smoke weed and I'll go back to that existential dread for some reason. And it all has to do with the psychedelic experiences too, because it's kind of like, oh, that's not what you think, it's this. And it's like, oh no. I don't know. It's very like Alan Watts, because he was big into that. And I don't know. It's pantheism ultimately, which is like everyone and everything's a manifestation of God, which is, I think, the realization that if you do a high enough dose of psychedelics, you ultimately come to, which has a lot of positives, but it also has for me, it has if you're attached to like your ego or identity, like
Yeah.
that's gone when you're, if you believe what you experienced, which I do, it's like, that's scary.
Yeah. And then again, if people are worried that there's nothing, this conversation is really going in an interesting direction. But if people are worried that death means nothingness, when really it just might mean the ego is not presenting the way that we are used to the ego presenting, but there's this alternative space of interconnectedness,
Yeah.
that could actually be a pretty beautiful thing,
Yeah.
And look, once we get the ego out of the way, the ego's out of the way, and we can develop whatever experience happens after that. Look, I don't know, you don't know,
Right.
but
It seems pretty convincing when you are on that stuff, though. You go, oh, I fucking know everything. Duh. Right? Like, you're like, oh, shit, I'm about to solve the world. And you come back and you try to explain to someone, they're like, yeah. Yeah, dude, you definitely have it figured out. I think I got way more good from it than bad, even in my, that was just one of the times, but I feel like, yeah, I've had a lot of good from it. And the ayahuasca experience was very different from that, but yeah, I'll probably do that again eventually. Go to Peru, do like 2 weeks. That's how I want to do it the next time I do it.
yeah.
With the shaman, which I had a shaman who was in like a yoga studio after hours in Santa Monica. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. That was so long ago. Yeah. Crazy.
Does this make sense? Because when she explained it to me, sometimes my wife talks so confidently. Do you know anybody like this? My wife speaks so confidently about things that I hear what she says, and I'm like, gosh, she knows everything. And I never challenge her. And for months, she's been telling me that after I brush my teeth, that if I rinse my mouth out with water, that it makes brushing my teeth less effective. And I was like,
Technically, the fluoride, she has a point. Like, and then when you leave the dentist, they don't let you rinse your mouth out. Sorry, I feel like I cut you off.
oh, no. Okay. Because I went to the dentist with her this past Friday, and I was like, hey, I've noticed that my wife knows everything, and I just want to, because you're the fucking dentist, right? Mm-hmm. So I was like, if I brush my teeth and I just rinse my mouth out afterward, not with like, I just go whoosh, to get it off around my face, right?
Yeah.
Because I like brush for like 4 minutes or however long that the thing tells me to. It's like 2 minutes. Maybe it's 2 minutes,
30
right?
seconds each quadrant.
It like pauses and it tells you when to move, right?
Sonic Hair has the same one.
So I was like, if I just like wash off my face and I get some water in there and I spit it out, I was like, am I actually, wasting the 2 minutes I just spent brushing my teeth? And the dentist was like, not at all. It makes no difference.
Oh, really?
And then
it must be the fluoride they use that makes the difference.
And then I walked out to she was waiting for me, and I was like, I'm sorry to drag you into this, but can you please tell my wife what you just told me? Because she speaks with such confidence. Mm-hmm. I think she's learned to bullshit her way because she's actually a kind of shy person. She bullshits her way through things she doesn't really know about. And I love her so much, and I just think she's the smartest thing ever. And that anything she says, I'll be like, when I'm teaching, I'll be like, did you guys know? Or she'll like say something she saw online. I'll be like, you guys, my wife said the funniest thing to my students. And they're like, they never say anything. But then later on, I'm like, today, babe, I shared what you were telling me about blah, blah, blah. And she's like, Gina, I got that from the internet. And I'm like, well, then why do you present it like it's your idea? She's like, because it makes you so happy.
That's funny. Yeah. In the Marines, they taught us to like, even if you're wrong, say it with confidence. It's one of the things. Yeah. Because they'll quiz you on all kinds of shit and like, who's the commander of the weapons company, president, and 20 whatever, and you're Sergeant Bill Chimber, I don't know, and you're supposed to just say it with confidence, but yeah, there's like, wrong, you fucking idiot. And that's how they talk to you, and you're like, yeah.
So there's no honor in admitting that you don't know something.
I believe there is.
No, but I'm just saying, like, that's how what a terrible message that you got the message for so long that there's not honor in being like, I have things to learn, or you know what, I don't know that, but I'd like to know.
Oh yeah, I'm big on that. Asking when I don't know something and learning. Yeah, I like that. I like asking, but yeah, no. And the Marines don't ask, don't tell, which was a thing when I was in, if you could believe it. And I'm not like 60 years old. Like,
I know. What? So, can you dish? Did you know people that work
oh
there?
yeah, yeah,
Was it like a known thing, or
yeah. Everyone knows the Navy's like that. Just kidding. But they
no? I
were,
mean, I've
they were
heard
in the
that.
Navy, enforcing that stereotype.
No, but I mean, it's so dangerous to tell the wrong person. But do you feel like because of who you are as a person, people opened up to you?
Oh no, they never told me.
It was
I just knew.
rumors.
No, I just
Or
could tell.
okay.
And then later, like I'm still friends with them, and I see that they're open about it. Yeah, I think it's probably too big of a risk, and I'm sure people knew, but no one was like probably one person, and I don't remember if he ever opened, but like we all knew, and this was infantry Marines, so
Wow.
and nobody ever like treated him. I mean, I'm sure he caught some shit that I didn't see, but like.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's what's cool about the military is like, yeah, you have all these isms in there, but like
Yeah.
your brothers and like you learn a lot. And I got a lot of weirdly enough cultured from that experience. And it's kind of cool because there's a lot of comedy involved with that too, because you'll roast each other or whatever. And there's those isms in some of those jokes, and they're laughing. We're all laughing. And so.
Do you think it's to break the tension of how serious things are?
Probably.
Things can be.
Yeah, probably that, and probably just like, I don't know. That's where I believe in the things we're doing with the wokeness and stuff, but there's I don't know, there's a way to be funny without like being hateful and mean about it, I think. Or I hope. I don't know. But I see like some jokes I will ride the edge and tell like some wild jokes, and sometimes they don't do well in LA, but like everywhere else they do well, because it's like, I don't know, I feel like people hear virtue signal sometimes and like, oh, who's laughing at that, and it's just like, I don't know.
Do you feel like you ever punch down?
Yes and no.
I asked you if you punched down because I wanted to understand. This is just me thinking. I wanted to understand like how you decide for yourself where the line is, but if you choose not to go for those really easy like the old school like punch down jokes.
Yeah.
Why is it important to you not to do that?
Yeah, I guess I've never really thought deeply about it. So I see it as like punching down is a rule.
Okay.
And you got to know the rules before you break them. I think there's some instances where you can, like, I have jokes that could, like, I say one where I got a DUI with my dog, and they took him to doggy jail, gave him a bunch of vaccinations he wasn't even due for yet. Now he's autistic. It kills. It's a great joke. It's not really, but then I get him with a punch down, but then I get him back. So I go, now I feel self-conscious every time I open a beer. He's looking up at me. He's like, are we doing this again? He talks like that because he's autistic. He didn't talk before the shot, so it boosted him.
Right.
So I get him back with the, it caused vaccine, but then the vaccine made me a talking dog. So who is the target there? At first, it was people that think vaccines cause autism.
Right, exactly.
Then you think I'm talking about how autistic people talk, but I'm actually saying vaccines are good. It made me a talking dog.
Yeah. See, I think it's much for you. It's thought out, and it's what I appreciate is that it's thought out, and you're able to say, well, this is what I'm doing. And I'm not trying, I'm actually, so if anyone is being like, that's offensive to the people on the autism spectrum, or, sorry, I don't want to say that's the only thing about them, but people who have been diagnosed on the autism spectrum, then you're able to say, actually, what I was trying to say there is da 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 da.
Yeah, but I didn't.
You
like it
don't.
took me a
You
long
don't.
time to
Yeah.
get that joke to develop there. I
Of
used to just
course.
end on he talks like that because he's autistic, and
Ah.
it
Okay.
wasn't until like the joke developed. And I think comedy is a place where it's pain that, like, the main source of comedy is pain plus time equals comedy. That experience was traumatic. Like, I got a DUI with my dog. Like, I felt like
Yeah.
the biggest piece of shit. I quit drinking for a year.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always, my coping and I feel like my gift or one of my abilities is to make light of these situations. But I also feel like when we're in that room, everything shouldn't be taken seriously. If it's funny, people will laugh, and
Yeah.
if it's not, they won't. And that's the only feedback we need. If somebody's spreading hate and like just, and they're doing these old school punch down jokes,
I just don't
it's
think it's
not
like.
where comedy is anymore. And I
Yeah.
think they're gonna get the feedback that they need to make those adjustments.
Yeah.
But I've had, I don't know, because I made school shooting jokes and like,
Mm.
but I like to make those because like it's a serious problem we have. So I'm like trying to, and it's been some of my better videos, but I've had people write the worst comments where like they said, I bet your family's wishing they got that folded flag right about now and stuff like that. So I'm personally still trying to figure it out. I'm 6 years in. I have a lot to learn. But the feedback that I need is if it's funny, I get laughs and I'll get consistent laughs and I'll keep testing it and I'll keep molding those jokes until they're where I want them to be. But a lot of times when I first tell them, it's not meant to be like televised and like it's
Right.
not ready, and it's an art form and I'm figuring it out and I'm trying to make these jokes good, but sometimes they're not good and sometimes they're insensitive or they come across in a way that I'm not meaning for them to come across. And I would hate for people to get the wrong idea of me not wanting to hurt people's feelings. I'm wanting to bring joy, spread love and laughter through comedy. That's like my purpose.
Mm-hmm.
But also like these are my experiences. This is through my lens of growing up poor in Oklahoma in a
Mm-hmm.
trailer, and maybe there's some hints of some stuff that that isn't the best, I guess. And but like that's not who I am. I live my life by values and like I don't know. I work hard to be the best person I can possibly be,
Mm-hmm.
but I also don't want to like
It's.
consistently be like, can I say this? Can I say this? Who's this gonna like? I want to just do my stuff as it's raw and then shape it. And if it's funny, it's funny. And I want to do things that I think are funny, but also like that get the feedback. The laughter is the feedback.
Yeah.
But that can change where you are. So
Yeah.
it's one of the most purest art forms and one of the most difficult, I think. But I love it, and I don't like do jokes just to like
Rile
be
people
mean
up.
or rile people up. Although some of them do have a wow factor and stuff. But like I have weirder jokes than that have a weird factor. Like I have a joke where I say, when I was younger, I used to be able to hear my parents having sex.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and but sometimes I'd be listening, and then it would just stop, and I'd think, did we just come at the same time? Which is it's a shocker, but like it's a good joke. And like, was I really just like coming at this? No, but like it's funny, and I think it's funny. And I found that joke through another situation of my friend talking about his parents, and like now I use it, and it's like
Yeah.
I don't know. So I'm not a highbrow comedian by any means, but like I like the idea of expressing myself and using my like I'm working on a pretty vulnerable like gay bit that I've been working on for years about
Mm-hmm.
like bunch of stuff, but like that one I've crossed the line, and I'm it's gonna be a great joke. And some of the greats talk about it, like when they like a lot of times when they first tell some of their best bits, they go, oh, the crowd goes, oh, and they're already famous. So it's like
Yeah.
the audience is our feedback, or our instrument in a way, and like that's how we're learning. And if 80% there, I really think there's probably almost, unless you're Seinfeld, there's jokes that almost anybody's can get offended
Of
with.
course.
Yeah.
Of
But I
course.
don't agree with these like bashing and like, I don't know. It's such a gray area and fine line, but like I want to stand for the right reasons, but I also want there to still be an art form.
Some artistic freedom.
Yeah.
What I can hear from what you're sharing, what I hear you saying is that it's a process. And I also like I think about like the best book I've ever read or some of the best books I've ever read, some of the best songs I've ever listened to.
Yeah.
If I would have if I would have read the rough drafts, the early
Yeah.
drafts, or if I would have heard the messing around with the first few chords and some of the lyrics not being right and without the like nice production sounds or without the copy editing I'm going back and forth between music and books here because that's what I
Sure.
really like, but we wouldn't appreciate them. And so what you're doing is you are literally crafting your masterpiece live every night and getting feedback, and you're walking a line, and when you get the feedback you understand where to pull back and where you need to add something so that it's maybe you didn't intend for it to be offensive. You don't have to explain every single thing. Explaining jokes is not funny.
Right.
And but the way you talk about it, I can tell that you care and you're so you're mindful about it.
Yeah.
It's called a craft for a reason,
Right.
right? And I think what's important is that you have a basic understanding that like not everyone's going to laugh at everything, and that's okay. And also, you want to make sure that you're not taking cheap shots just to take cheap shots.
Right. Yeah. No, almost always comes back to like my experience and me trying to like integrate it. And my favorite is the douchebag daily double. There's little sounds here, but I haven't programmed them yet. But yeah, douchebag daily double, which is so you'll talk about the douchiest thing that's ever happened to you, and then the douchiest thing you've ever done. Which I doubt you have much douchey things you've done, but you might have to dig deep for that one.
There are douchey things. I want to be honest.
Oh, and the douchey things are your unhonest ones?
No, I want to be honest, so I don't want to like just make up a story because I'm anxious.
Yeah,
I want to
fair.
like be like, what did I really do? That was super douchey.
Oh, good. Well, in the meantime...
Oh, okay. I think I got one.
Okay, would you want to start with the douchiest thing you've done or the douchiest thing that's ever happened to you?
Okay, so recently, I would say a douchey thing that I've done is I was in therapy and my therapist was just being 100% honest with me. Mm-hmm. And this is only a couple years ago. Well, it's about 3 or 4 years ago now, probably about 4 years ago. But I'm well into my therapy career.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting in a therapist's office paying and asking for help and asking for honesty. And the therapist is like, this is my honest opinion. Blah, 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 blah. And I got up and walked out. And like,
Because you didn't like the opinion?
because I just didn't like what I was hearing.
Yeah. Was it accurate?
Oh, yeah, 100%. It was 100% accurate. But it was immature and it was rude. And I remember kind of like walking all the way home. Like I had taken a car service there and I was like, I'm not even going to take a car service home. I'm going to walk I was like, the whole way home.
Yeah.
Which at the time I was dealing with pain in my leg.
Oh,
so
no.
all I did was really hurt myself.
Oh, no.
And then I got home and I followed the therapist's suggestions, but not because I believed in the suggestions, because I wanted to prove the therapist wrong. And so they were like, I think you should get this evaluated. So I went and I got an evaluation just to be like, and see, they don't agree. It was a douche. It was so immature and it was so douchey.
Wow.
And that is probably the most recent super douchey thing I've done.
Well, on the douche scale, that's not that bad in my opinion. And I have it way worse. So, yeah. And I'm sure he was, or they, or the she was probably just like, Okay, well, Storm's out of office. We'll discuss that next time.
She did. She was like, "Did that feel good?"
It probably did too in the moment. That's another thing. Sometimes being a douchebag feels good. You know, someone honks at you and you throw them the bird, and you're like, "Yeah, what are you gonna fucking do about it, dude?" Yeah, drive off. But
And
yeah,
then you're like, "Oh no, what if they were like rushing their kid to the hospital or something like that?" Like,
yeah,
you always have to think about like this could be someone's worst day,
right,
and that's what I'm acting out on. Or like, in my case, this person is is being paid to tell me the truth.
yeah.
And I
And you
was
just
like,
asked for it. That's not the truth I wanted. I wanted you to tell me I'm awesome.
"I'm paying you here."
Yeah, that's funny. And what about the douchiest thing that's been done to you,
So I think
or that you're willing to share?
yeah, that I feel comfortable sharing. So I was at the Hollywood DMV,
Oh,
and this is, the real IDs are like the requirement now. And so my wife and I went at the same time. As anyone who has the joy of going to the DMV knows, it's like a several hour process where you're mostly just waiting.
yeah,
And we each got those little like sandwich deli numbers.
yeah.
And we got called up at the same time, but two different people. And in order to get your real ID, you have to show. I had to show my marriage license. So yay, I'm legally married. I had to show proof of residence. Basically, my name had to be on bills and stuff like that. So she went up and she had the documents, turned them in. The person looked through them, made copies, was like, "Perfect, stamp, you're done." She walks over, hands me the exact same documents that have both our names on it, same marriage certificate, exact same documents with my name on it. And I give them to the guy, and he's looking at them, and I was like, "Oh, and the one thing I want to do is the only thing that I didn't look up ahead of time is there a special form? I just want to change my gender marker. My gender marker is an F, and I now want an X gender marker."
Oh, so you can get a gender marker that doesn't say.
It doesn't say F or M, it just says X.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's
So,
pretty cool. I
and
didn't know that.
I was really excited about this because that it felt good, right? To just be authentic and to have,
Right.
an ID that reflects who I am. And so also just not a big deal, right? And
Especially in the Hollywood TMV.
right.
Do you think you'll ever transition?
No, I'm so happy with where I am, which is why, that was what was confusing is I was like, well, I know I'm not a woman, but like I'm definitely not a guy.
Sure.
So I guess I'm just uncomfortable. That this must be what it's like for all lesbians who don't feel, all like tomboy lesbians. And then some of my friends came out as non-binary, and it literally, I was like, oh, there is a category or a language or something that describes my exact experience.
Yeah.
So
Was
I
it your?
mean,
Oh, go ahead.
yeah,
Sorry.
no. I mean, I've had top surgery, and
Oh, really?
and that feels, now I feel exactly how I'm supposed to be. Like
That's awesome.
I just feel, it just feels nice.
I have a crazy story about that. I went to this like veterans retreat, and there was a trans person there, but like, there's no way. Like, I'll show you pictures of this man, and yeah, you're like, oh, that's a dude, or always been and like
Yeah.
had scars. And we were, what were we doing? It was a really cool retreat, like scuba diving. They paid for everything. It's like a 7-day thing, and we were about to go parasailing, and he had his shirt off, and like I saw the scars, and I was like, oh, what happened? Because I'm an idiot and had no idea. And they go, oh, just said something. I go, oh, I thought about that too because I have weird nipples, thinking like he
Yeah.
had just fixed his nipples. And
Right.
then it hit me later. I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. And my friend works on the program and didn't warn me or tell me anything. And yeah,
Well, probably not there's information to share.
that's true. Let me try to find this person.
Yeah. Also, if you put yourself in a situation where you're going to be shirtless and there's going to be scars, I'm assuming that that person has enough like ego strength to
Oh
be able to
yeah,
be like,
they're so confident.
well, then I'll just, I don't know what they told you it was or whatever, but
I think they said the name. I'm just clueless.
top surgery
Chest, something. Maybe. I don't know. It was.
or chest or whatever the
Yeah, it was
language.
chest. It was something where I was just like, yeah, I thought about having that because I have poofy nipples from Adderall. Yeah, that's how I was like looking back. I was like, God, I'm
Wait,
such.
does Adderall do that?
Yeah, it does, and I still have. I'm a little insecure about them. They were a little poofy. So that was real. I was just being real with him, and he was probably like, "This dude is either a dipshit or like."
Or maybe they were like, great, this is no big deal.
Yeah, no, and it wasn't, and yeah, he's super. I think they deleted their Instagram, but that's the.
Wait. Oh, they're hot.
Yeah,
I know.
and
Man,
like, I don't
there
know.
are some things that I think if I could like microdose testosterone and have like be more fit,
Chest, yeah.
100% I would do it. But you can't control whether it changes your voice or you have facial hair or you male pattern baldness. Like
Oh
you can't microdose and choose the effects. I would love to have like a more like. Yeah, I would love to have a more defined chest or be able to like use testosterone to work out and like build muscle in a
Sure.
way that's not like that, but just more how I was when I was running marathons.
Yeah, yeah. I love testosterone. Obviously, it's yeah. It's. I mean, everyone
I
has
love
it,
it.
but I do. I like I like how. I like a lot of it. I don't know.
Yeah.
Is that toxic?
No, not at all.
Love testosterone, dude. I got some extra if you need some, Gina.
You're allowed to love what your body already gives you.
Okay, cool. It's like, fuck yeah, dude. I'm team testosterone.
So things were so fine between me and this guy, and then as soon as I said that, he sets aside my stuff and he looks at me and he says, I don't think you're going to be able to get your ID today. And I was like, why not? And he's like, well, actually, none of this paperwork counts. If you like, none of it counts. And I'm not even sure your marriage license is going to be accepted. And just tosses it to the side and basically is like, so bye. And I'm like, but my wife just used this exact paperwork a couple, like, what are those called? Cubicles down,
yeah.
like a couple cubicles down. And she had no problem. And now she's done and she's standing here waiting. And he's like, well, I'm not that other person, am I?
Wow. Can
And
you just request another? Or like, how did you respond?
Well, what I could have done is said, okay, hand me back my stuff and I will go and I will pull another thing and I will wait for another several hours. That was my only hoping I did not get him again.
You can't just ask for the manager?
Well, I don't know.
With that haircut, I say you can.
You were going to get that in there.
I told you. And you say it while you're defogging your glasses.
Yeah. So this is the douchey part. This is besides just the douchery of what happened.
That was already super douchey.
But the douchey part is that he has something that I want, and it's very time consuming to get what you need, and I'm in an extremely vulnerable position because he holds the key to what I need, and
Right.
I know that if my wife had not been there and had not used the exact same documents, I might have been like gaslit and been like, oh, maybe these don't qualify, even though I clearly checked off what I needed to bring in.
Right.
And I didn't know if asking for a manager was an option. I didn't know if it would put my safety at risk.
Right.
There's all these things to consider in
Yeah.
a flash. And so all I could do, because he had the thing that I actually am legally required to have. My license expired, right? And I'm getting a new license, and I want the real ID. And so I said, well, what can I get today? And he was like, well, I can, but like so put out. He was like, well, I can try to submit what you have, and you'll probably get a regular license, but you're going to need to come back by the date that the real IDs are required, and you're going to need to repeat the process.
Ugh, that's so
In
frustrating.
4 to 5, or I think in 4 to 6 weeks, you'll know whether you even have an actual license. Here's your temporary license. In 4 to 5 weeks, or 4 to 6 weeks, you'll know if you even have a temporary license. But you're probably going to have to come back and do this all over again.
Ugh,
And I was like,
that's your only option at that point.
So
Or
I
it
was,
seems like
I
it.
was just like, thank you, sir. Grabbed the paperwork and walked out, because
That sucks. I'm sorry.
I didn't want to be the person who was like, I want to speak to a manager.
Right. Yeah. No. Yeah. Yeah, that's gotten a bad rep. I used to manager the fuck out of places. If I didn't like what you're doing, manager. Phone call, just put me on with the supervisor. You can't help me. Like, I was that guy for sure. Now I'm better about it, but yeah.
So what is the douchiest thing you've done and
Ooh.
that you're willing to share?
Yeah, I have so much to draw on. I once took a girl's virginity and then broke into her family's house when they were out of town, and me and my friends like robbed them.
Oh,
So that's probably among the top douchiest things I've ever done ever.
did having intercourse with this girl have anything to do with you getting into the house later, or was that an
Yeah.
opportunity to like scope out the house?
It did. I was like, this pussy's so good. What's in the house? Like this is some good shit. So I need to see what else you got.
That is douchey.
See, that just comes to me. I still relapse. I'm not totally cured.
Wait, what? So speaking of the manager thing, though, one time I was working at Scandia Family Fun Center. I don't know if we could say that. I was
Yeah.
working at a arcade place, right?
Oh, I didn't even know what that was. Is that a arcade in Michigan?
Like, no. It's in California. It's a arcade. There's the go-karts. There's like little water boats. There's batting cages. It's like I was the manager, right?
Oh, nice.
And someone was playing air hockey, and they knocked the puck off the table. And then they came up to me and they said, I knocked the puck off the table. And I was like, mm-hmm. Like, kind of like, what?
Yeah.
And they were like, well, go find the puck.
No.
And I was like, I wasn't playing. I've been working. You knocked the puck off. You saw where it went. So I don't know what you want me to do. And I was being polite at that point.
Yeah, that's great. Like reasoning skills, you used a lot of logic there.
Like, where would I look? Also, how is this my responsibility?
Yeah.
So this man says, I want to speak to your manager.
Oh, it was a man? Yeah. And that's when you got to deliver the line, I am the manager.
I did, but in such a douchey way.
Yeah.
I said, oh, you want to speak to the manager?
Oh, that's great.
Hold on. I turned around and then I said, hi, I'm the manager.
Oh, that's awesome. That's like, oh, I love that though.
But it is kind of like, I
is.
could have just been like, I don't know, did you lose it? Are you worried that you're actually losing your quarter time or whatever it was? I didn't really take time to explore. I was just kind of like, you made the mistake, you fix it. And when you wanted to go above my head, I absolutely made him feel dumb.
Yeah, that's great.
And
What
I
did he
think-
say?
He was he was really mad.
Oh, wow.
I think he took his son and he left.
Oh, yeah. Well,
I mean,
sir, you're going to have to find that puck before you leave. As the manager, I'm going to report this if you don't get that puck.
I think the point though is it on the one hand he was being really not thoughtful, but for me to make him feel stupid, that's a douchey thing.
Yeah.
He could have been more considerate. I also could have been more compassionate.
Yeah.
So.
That's true. Yeah. There's always a way to look at it. Yeah. Mine was just like so fucked up that there's no way I could even like rationalize or reason it. Like, it's just like, yeah, good thing you're a different person because, yeah.
Wait, did they ever find out it was you?
I don't think so.
Is she going to find out now?
Maybe. I mean, I'm not really in contact with her, but
Do you want to say you're sorry to the family?
I am sorry to the family.
Okay.
But also, it's past the statute of limitations, so please. Because I Googled that just to be sure that I'm in the clear, which is kind of douchey, but I had to know, like, can they come after me?
Well, that's why it's called Douchebags Anonymous.
It's anonymous, yeah. I'm using a different name than I went by then, so I'm good.
Perfect.
I'm not even going to say her name. I almost said, if you're seeing this right now.
No.
Yeah, no. Got to keep the anonymity. Is that how you say that?
Anonymity.
All right. See? Public schools in Oklahoma.
I taught you better than that.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah. My roommate, whose first language is Spanish, after I already had a master's degree, pointed out that I made mistakes in my verbs. And I fixed them, but I was like, wow, this isn't good. I got a bachelor's and a master's, and I don't know how to talk right. In my native language.
I don't talk too good.
Yeah, I don't talk good at all. My roommate's from Spain, and he fixed my English somehow.
You know what? That is a perfect example of something that I used to consistently do. When I was trying to put on an unintelligent voice, I would always default to a Southern accent.
Oh, me too.
And my wife is like, that's really rude.
It kind of is, but I used to have that accent, so it's fitting.
And
like,
I never did.
I did, but I was like, I'm from California, but it's Bakersfield, so like, they didn't know that though. They're like, oh, fucking California. I'm like, yeah, dude, I surfed, and yeah, you go to Bakersfield, it's like worse than Oklahoma. Yeah. I surfed through the intense racism and white supremacy there. Yeah. So, and then in the military, the people like, I'd say hunting and fishing. They'd be like, oh, hunting, fishing. I'd be like, okay, how do you say it? Hunting.
Did you say the crick?
I would say I seen it, like stuff like that. Yeah. Yeah. With a master's degree.
Well,
and you were one of my professors, and you let me I seen it in class. I seen that too.
Okay, for the record, he did not talk like that in class.
No, but I would mess up those verbs. And I've rode versus I've ridden.
Oh.
So, and I had a few of those. And yeah.
Well, some of this is just like people who are like stickers for grammar and stuff like that.
Well, now
but like we understand what you're saying. It's like when people are like, I went to the crick. And I'm like,
oh, yeah, swamp people.
What is that?
That's Louisiana. Those people are different.
Should I be nervous?
Yeah.
If a person's at a crick, are they okay?
They have a problem. Oh, and then where you're from, they say bag.
Oh, yes. Everything is Regina. Did you get the bag we sent?
Oh, gosh. That's funny.
We sent you a bag in the mail.
That's funny. I remember in class you'd always do your mom's impressions and we'd be cracking up. Good times. Well, cool. I think we're good.
Wait, you didn't say one. The double thing is you admitted to something, but come on, something bad has had to happen for you.
Yeah, I've been so douchey that it's overpowered the people that have been douchey to me. Sometimes let me think. There's multiple, but I'm like, that person will probably see this. I don't want to say that. That's tough. I should have been more prepared for this.
I get put on the spot. And you've known this question for how long?
Yeah. Well, it's because I had so many to choose from when I was douchey that I didn't even think.
Oh, well, you know what? The comment you shared earlier the comment, someone left you a comment in your comment
Oh,
section.
that's true. Yeah.
That is the douchiest thing I've probably ever heard.
They said, I bet your parents are wishing they got that folded flag right about now.
That's sick.
Which is douchey.
Whoever that is, fuck right off. That is sick.
Yeah. And I just ignore them. But the best mean comment I got was I posted a video with Bob Saget on a podcast where it's Kill Tony, and you go in and you like say your best minute of material, and I got him to laugh, and I put, after he died, I was Bob Saget's last real laugh. Which I shouldn't have said that, but I thought it was funny, and very insensitive with people that knew Bob, and
sure,
I'm sure there's some people that don't like me because of that. Somebody wrote on there, bro, I think this is what killed him.
Oh, come on.
But that one made me laugh. I was like, oh, that's good. That's a good roast, So, yeah, that was good. Thank you for helping me remember that.
Yeah, of course.
Well, cool. Thank you for coming in. Yeah, I feel like we crushed it.
I feel like